Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good evening, everyone. So we are from Group 5, and today we will present about language production and conversational interaction. The member of our group are Dena Agistriana, Pak Aik Aziz, Ilham Arifianto Aziz, Karisma Sekar Arum, Nurlintang Arumsari, Mutiara Dwi Aprilia, and the last one is Vina Fianti. The first material will be delivered by Nurlintang Arumsari. Hello, Nurlintang.
Yes, Vina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take your time.
The slip of the tongue. The scientific analysis of speech error, commonly called the slips of the tongue. A number of collections of spontaneous speech errors have been made, and it is interesting to determine whether there are consistent patterns in when and how they occur. Anecdotal evidence indicates that such errors are more common when we are nervous or under stress, as when performers appear on live television and radio shows. It seems probable that errors are more likely to occur when we are tired, anxious, or drunk. Next. Sorry, Vina, next.
Okay.
Okay. There is 8 types of speech errors. The first is shifts. For example, that so she'll be ready in case she decides to hit it. The third, in this case, the third is decides to hit it, not hits it. And then the second is exchange. For example, fancy getting your model renosed. The third is getting your nose remodeled. Next, the third is anticipations. For example, back my bike. The third is take my bike. And then the fourth is perseverations. For example, he pulled the tantrum. The third is tantrum. And then the fifth additions. For example, I didn't explain this carefully enough. But here is the third is carefully enough, not carefully. And then the dilations. I'll just get up and mutter intelligibly. The third is unintelligibly. And then next, the seventh is substitution. For example, at low speeds, it's too light. In this case, too light, it might be changed with the heavy. And then the last is bland. For example, the child is looking to be splendid. It might be changed to be spanked or paddled, the third. And for the explanation, insists one speech segment disappear from its appropriate location and appear somewhere else. Exchange are in effect double shifts in which two linguistic units exchange place. Anticipations occur when a later segment takes the place of an earlier one. They differ from shifts in that the segment text introduced on another also remains in its correct location and thus is used twice. Perseverations occur when an earlier segment replace a later item. Addition add linguistic material, whereas deletions leave something out. Substitutions occur when one segment is replaced by an intruder. This different from previously described slips in that the source of the instructions may not be in the sentence. And the last is blends apparently occur when more than one word is being considered and the two intended items fuse or blend into a single item. Okay, for the next presentation will be presented by my friend Vina.
Okay, thank you, Lintang.
You're welcome.
This week. All right. Explanation of speech error. The Freudian explanation. One intriguing idea is that speakers have more than one idea in mind at a time. Here, I have an example. Last night, my grandmother lied. Here, the meaning of the speaker is died, but what is mentioned is lied. This could be an innocent phonological error, but then again, the slip could reveal the student's thinking more than he wishes. Jadi di sini yang mau dimaksudkan oleh the speaker is died, tapi yang disebutkan itu adalah lied. Next, psycholinguistic explanation. Most recent psycholinguistic in linguistic thinking has focused on the insight gained in understanding language mechanism, not in unconscious motivation from the study of speech errors. In this respect, error of linguistic performance occupy a role in psycholinguistic theories similar to that played by emphasis disorders. You can see in the chapter 13 in the book of David W. Carroll. The next is summary, speech errors. The ban of performance on live television and radio are systematic and typically fall into one of 8 categories. Exchanges, substitution, addition, deletion, anticipation, perseveration, blend, and shift. Various hypotheses concerning the basis for such errors have been advanced. One of the more prominent has been Freud's view that errors occur because we have more than a single plan for production, and that one such plan's competence with dominates the others. Also, Freudian types of explanation may apply to some speech errors. More recent thinking has focused on psycholinguistic process underlying speech error. All right, that's all from me. The next presenter is Dena.
Okay, thank you, Vina. Next. Yeah, several models of linguistic planning. This is a table of Fromkin's model of speech production. There are 6 models of speech production. The first, identification of meaning. A meaning to be conveyed is generated. Second, selection of a syntactic structure. A synthetic outline of the sentence is constructed with word slot specified. The third, generation of intonation control. The stress values of different word slots are assigned. And then fourth, insertions of content words. Appropriate nouns, verbs, and adjectives are retrieved from the lexicon and placed into word slots. 5. Formation of affixes and function words. Function words like articles, conjunction, preposition, and then prefix and suffix are added. And then last, specification of phonetic segments. The sentence is expressed in terms of phonetic segments according to phonological rules. Next, yeah, this is
Ada presentasi.
examples of Garrett's 1975. She's already drunk 2 packs. The correct is packed 2 trunks. At stage 1, the meaning of the overall utterance is identified. At stage 2, synthetic structure is laid out and slots are constructed for the noun or pronoun, adverb, verb, adjective, and object noun. And at stage 4, the content words she, has, already, drunk, to, and pack are fit into the outline. Here is where the error is said to occur as trunk and pack are exchanged for one another. At stage 5, the suffixes ed and s are added to their original and correct location. At stage 6, the complete utterance is put into phonetic form. And then independence of planning units. One of Romkin's examples, which was pronounced R. The example is singing sewer machine. The correct is singer sewing machine. Here, the error is at stage 5 in the Fromkin's model, as the suffixes are exchanged for one another, yet the rest of the utterance, the content words, stress values, and syntactic structure remain unaltered. Okay, next. Yeah, the sequence of planning units. Certain errors indicate that when a speech unit is exchanged or shifted into a different speech environment, certain phonological processes specify the exact phonetic representation. Example from Garrett, 1980. There are 3. First, it certainly ran out fast. The correct is runs out. Second, an language acquisition. The correct is a language acquisition. And the last, easy enoughly. The correct is easily enough. Okay, next, role of working memory. Rule of working memory. Recent studies have examined the processing resources needed at various stages of language production. Ferreira and Paslier, 2002, examined whether each stage of word production interferes with performance and on a concurrent and relative task, thus using the methodology of studying working memory. Okay, next. Yep, the next slide will be presented by my friends Ilham.
Okay, thank you, Dina. And the next is editing processes. Editing processes intervene between the planning of an utterance and its articulation. It determines whether the planned utterance is linguistically and socially acceptable. But some monitoring and editing processes occur after a speech segment is uttered. Okay, the next slide is parallel models of linguistic planning. Parallel models assume that multiple levels of processing take place simultaneously during the course of language production is an alternative to the serial model developed by Fromkin and Garrett. Next is according Dell 1986, Dell assumes that there are four levels of nodes in permanent memory: semantic, syntactic, morphological, and phonological. Separate, separate representation of the intended message occur at each level, much as in the serial models. Unlike the serial models, however, this representation work in parallel. As a node at one level becomes activated, it may activate others. It may activate other nodes at the same level or at other levels. Okay, thank you. And the next material will be presented by Mutiara. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Implementing linguistic plans. The first, articulating. Once we have organized our thoughts into a linguistic plan, this information must be sent from the brain to the muscles in the speech system so that they can then execute the required movement and produce the desired sound. So it is helpful to understand certain basic aspects of articulation, that is to anticipate our later comparison of signal language production versus speech. And the entry system of Maxwell fluent articulation of speech requires the coordinate use of a large number of muscles. These muscles are distributed over three systems: the respiratory, the laryngeal, and the supralaryngeal or vocal tract. The respiratory system regulates the airflow from the lungs to the vocal channel, and then speech generated from the air is driven out of the lungs. The laryngeal system consists of vocal cords, and it is responsible for the difference between clear and silent sound. So it can be said that once again we see that the speaker can speak fluently by preparing a portion of their sentence in an instant. The next slide, please. The summary. The production of speech is a complex process that requires the coordination of the respiratory, laryngeal, and supralaryngeal system. The speaker of monologues also reveals that there is a people who fluctuate between eloquent speech and hesitating pauses. This pause is intended to be associated with various linguistic variables and seems to reflect a linguistic planning in a sentence. The speaker will regularly monitor their speech to make sure that they say what they want and in the way they want. If an error is detected, the speaker will immediately find it and begin to change what they say, either in the form of a cut-out phrase or in a refined language structure in order to understand the listener better. The next slide. The next slide will be presented by Harisma. Harisma,
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. It's your turn.
Okay. Self-monitoring. Earlier in the chapter, we discussed the notion that we currently edit our utterances prior to articulation. This notion remains a controversial one. There is no debate, however, over, over whether we overtly edit what we say. From time to time, we spontaneously inter- interpret our speech and correct ourselves. These corrections are referred to as self-reports. According to Levitt, self-reports have a characteristic structure that consists of three parts. First, we interpret ourselves after we have detected an error in our speech. Second, we usually utter one of various editing expressions. These include terms such as sorry, and so forth. Finally, we repeat the utterance. Let's use consider as in turn. Next slide, presented by Vina.
Bye, Fai. Okay, Fai.
Okay, sorry.
Hello, Fai.
Hello, tes.
All right. Yes.
Okay, the insight from sign language. There are 4 points in this chapter. There are slip of the hand, independence of parameter, morpheme structure constraint, and summary. First is the slip of the hand. Newclick, Klima, Pedersen, and Belugi in 1980 have found some fascinating evidence that slip of the hand, similar to slip of the tongue, take place with the deaf signer. They use a corpus of 131 errors, 77 of which came from videotape signing, and 54 of which were reported observation from informants or researcher. So, pada tahun 1980, Newclick dan rekannya menemukan sebuah bukti bahwa slip of the hand mirip dengan slip of the tongue. And the next, please. And they found out the independence of parameters. Newkirk and colleagues analyzed the errors in terms of parameters of American Sign Language or ASL, configuration, place of articulation, and movement to assess whether sign parameter also appear to be independent unit of production. The researcher found error analogous to exchange, anticipation, and perseveration. So in this independence parameter, Newkirk found that there are some parameter of American Sign Language like hand configuration, left articulation, and movement. And they found that there are some changes in exchange, anticipation, and perseveration. Next, one example of an exchange concern an individual who apparently intended to sign six board, similar to English like I'm sick on I'm tired of it. This intended production can be described in the following way. The six, these have configuration like hand toward the signer, place of articulation, at the forehead, the movement with a twist of wrist. And then board, hand configuration is strike index finger with the hand toward signer, place of articulation at nose, the movement with twist of wrist. Next. So we can see there are picture of man using sign language in this. What the signer actually produced was the sign for six with the hand configuration for board and vice versa. The other parameter were not influenced. Newkirk and colleagues found 65 instances of exchange involving hand configuration, of which were 49 were pure cases. That is, one is which no other parameter was in error. In addition, 9 of the 40 of the 24 error related to place and movement parameter were single parameter. Nah, jadi di sini kita bisa lihat bahwa beberapa gambar yang di sini menunjukkan tanda sedang sick atau sakit lalu dengan bored. Di sini Bapak ini melakukan kesalahan sebagai contohnya dia memakai pergerakan tangan board tetapi dengan memilih area tempat di six. Contohnya di situ kan ada telunjuk tangan yang harusnya di board itu di bagian pipi itu diarahkan ke bagian dahi. Nah, itu salah satu slip of the hand. Next. As we saw in chapter 2, position such a hand towards signer can be further analyzed into distinct features. The question then is whether these features are also independent unit in sign production. Nurkic and colleagues found evidence that they are. One example was a signer with intended to convey must see. I must see about it. The correct sign must consist in part a hand configuration in which the index finger is bent. Next. The sign for C include a hand configuration in which the index and the middle finger make a V or as in victory or peace sign. In the error, mass was made in the V hand configuration but with both finger bent. It appears that the bend feature of hand configuration was anticipated in production of the earlier sign. Jadi kita lihat di sini ada beberapa kesalahan yang dilakukan oleh designer. C using the mass sign, but using the two of her finger. Jadi dia tuh melakukan tanda mas itu yang harusnya jari telunjuk ditekuk lalu diarahkan ke bawah, tapi dia menggunakan dua jari lalu diarahkan ke bawah. Itu slip of the hand. Next. Morpheme structure constraint. One final aspect of sign-in error concern whether they obey constraint of morpheme structure that are part of grammar of SL. With the slip of the hand, most error result in non-existent but possible SL sign. One constraint concerns the possible contacting region for articulating hand configuration. A contacting region, the part of the hand that serves a focus for contact or pointing during the movement of the sign. Next. One example, the signer intended deaf woman, but signer deaf with the hand configuration of woman. The correct sign for deaf includes a hand configuration in which the index finger is extended. The contact region is the tip of that extended finger. In the error, the hand configuration of woman, an open palm is substituted for the index finger. However, the open palm hand shape doesn't permit an index finger contact, so the contacting region was shifted to the left of the thumb, which is an acceptable contacting region for this configuration. Next. So the summary. Studies of language production are valuable because they are enable us to distinguish between those aspects of production that are constrained by broad biological forces and those that are specific to speech. Sign language, because it exists in entirely different method from speech, it might well differ substantially from speech in terms grammatically organization. In contrast, basic similarities have been found in the two modes organization of basic units in the word or sign and the syntax rules by which word and sign combine to form sentence. These similarities are illustrated by slip of the hand, which, like those of speech, typically involve systematic error in single linguistic unit. This result provides evidence that the parameters underlying sign are blended independently of another. That's it for me.
All right.
Next.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that is all of the presentation from our group. We hope you all can understand what we have to say. Thank you for your attention, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.